Hey, ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday, May 12th. So I'm filling in for Ed tonight. Ed, we wish you well wherever you may be. Ed told me to tell you to get off your ass and start helping us. So from Ed's lips to your ears. And the best way to do that, by the way, is to go to our website and do our daily action. They're quick, they're easy, they're fun. They're very fun right now. You got to have a Twitter account, by the way. I know Twitter sucks, but all that being said, it's pretty fun. Like, check out our special project. We've got this grab bag of very important, very strong tweets from the past 6 months. All of them are as relevant today as they were the day that we wrote them. It's a huge basket of tweets. We're asking everybody to grab 5 or 10 of those at random and retweet them. We've got a massive muscle to flex, ladies and gentlemen. We've got over 1 million people on all our stuff. So help us flex that muscle and do your part, because as I say every night, these are your loans and this is your problem. So, hey, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, by all means, leave a comment and I will be very happy to respond to it. Before we get into the topic of tonight, which is going to be very fun, let me just quickly show you the results of our most recent poll. So we polled our members, about 5,000 people responded. And the question at hand was, how would a $10,000 loan cancellation affect you? And we put that question to our members, and here are the results. Let me just share them here. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the results do not bode well for this nonsensical loan cancellation that we're hearing about. As you can see, these two areas here are hardly, it won't make a dent. So that's less than a 10% reduction between those two categories. And what we found was that 77% of our respondents, these are people that are in studentloanjustice.org, so they clearly are a little more affected by this issue than most student loan borrowers. So that is true. So it's not a scientific representation of all student loan borrowers, but this is a representation of the people who need relief. And among those people who are the most vocal and the most concerned, 3/4 are way not impressed. And only 10%, 11%, actually 12% of the people said they would be somewhat benefited. So that would be between a 25 and a 50% reduction. Collectively, only, what is that? 10.6%. So roughly 1 in 10 of our members said that a $10,000 cancel would be for them significant. It would either completely erase their debt or bring it down by more than half. So, while it's hard to extrapolate that to the general population, I think we ski a little bit high, but probably not by much. So my best guess would be that only maybe 20%. So that's double. That's being pretty generous. Maybe 20% of the student loan borrowers out there would be pleased with a $10,000 student loan cancellation. So there's 45.4 million federal student loan borrowers in the country, 43.2 million unique borrowers. So a fifth of that is like, a little over 8 million people. And for those 8 million people who would be pleased, there are 35 million people who would not be pleased. And, I would venture to say that not only would they not be pleased, it would probably tend to piss them off. Like the people that I know that are worse hurt by these loans, $10,000 is not going to do anything for them. And frankly, it's a slap in the face. So anyways, those are the results. You can see it. I think I pinned it on our Twitter, so you can have a look at that and spread that around. The Democrats need to know this. Democrats are in deep trouble. Both parties, as crazy as this may sound, are in deep trouble on this issue. On the one hand, the Democrats are hemming and hawing and, should we do up to $50,000 loan cancellation? Should we do $10,000? They're trying to bound it by that. But quite frankly, even an up to $50,000 would not impress fully 60% of the people, certainly on our group. So the Democrats, despite Joe Biden's very pleasant sounding words before the election, the Democrats are pissing us off at every step in the way. And the longer they string us out, the more angry we become. That's not good for the Democrats. They were looking at a very steep uphill battle going into these midterms in the first place. We are their base. So that's true. But at the same time, it's also true that the Republicans are idiots. The Republicans have nothing on this issue. What the Republicans do have is finger wagging at us and trying to pin the blame on us. And more than that, fighting viciously hard against student loan cancellation and making up really insulting lies about us, the borrowers, to support their crap argument. First of all, let me say, the loans will not be paid, ladies and gentlemen. The loans will be canceled, and I will get into that in a moment. But the Republicans fail to realize that. What the Republicans also fail to realize is that over half of those 43.2 million federal student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent, and most of them are over the age of 35. And people over the age of 50 outnumber people under the age of 25 with student loans, and they owe 300% more. So the people being hurt worse by this are not young, liberal, successful, snowflakes. They're older people. This is more an older person's problem than a younger person's problem. And over half of them are either Republican or independent. And that's not me pulling numbers out of the air. That is very credible as you can get, looking research from the Pew Research Foundation, Pew Research. As of 2014, it was about a 50-50 split between Republicans and independents on one hand, Democrats on the other hand. But more recent Gallup polling data has shown that the country as a whole has skewed a few clicks towards the right since 2014. So, and that's for people who attended college, whether they graduated or not. So the Republicans, when they wag their finger, and the key point here is that 80% of all student loan borrowers, even before the pandemic, were losing sleep over their loans. They were underwater. They were either not paying or they were paying, but their loan balances were going up. So this was a big issue for them. That was like 37 million people that were very concerned about these loans before the pandemic, and that's only gotten worse since. And half of them are, as I said, more than half are Republican or independent. So the Republicans are pushing us away. The Democrats are pushing us away. And we are the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. I kid you not. Can you think of a larger voting bloc? If you take into account both federal and private loans, there's about 57 million student loan borrowers and cosigners in the country. That's a lot of people. And if the 80% distress rate for federal loans is applicable to private loans, it's probably roughly the same, maybe a bit less. We're talking about like 42 million distressed student loan borrowers in the country, and we vote. We vote way at a higher percentage than average. That's a lot of voters. It's like nearly enough to elect a president outright. So both parties are just completely screwing us and screwing themselves, screwing their own chances in November. So it's a really interesting dynamic, guys. But what I'm here to talk about tonight, and I'm going to look for your comments right now, is 5 signs that the student loan system is failed with a capital F. So in no particular order, let me just see if I can find some comments. Happy to take your questions and comments as we go along. I'd much rather not be a talking head up here, and I'd much rather have a little give and take with all the good people here. I see Leslie Fishman is here with us tonight. Hey, Leslie. Leslie says, all the good people here. Oh, I see Leslie Fishman is here with Leslie says, good evening. Great results from the poll. I don't know if they were great or terrible, but I don't know. This $10,000 nonsense is not blowing the wind up anyone's skirts. Hey, Kyle Smith says, did you mention the scumbag Purdue president? Almost not worth mentioning. I don't know why so many terrible things on the student loan problem come from the state of Indiana, but they do. One of the senators that's Mike Brown, who's been opposing us and fighting like heck to get this lending system turned back on, comes from the state of Indiana. I could talk for an hour about all the bad things that I've seen come from the state of Indiana on the student loan problem over the 17 years that we've been studying this problem, ladies and gentlemen. Mitch Daniels, former governor of Indiana, now president of Purdue University, wrote a scathing op-ed yesterday talking about how student loan cancellation would be unfair, which is the biggest lie out there today. And I can maybe go into that a little bit. Student loan cancellation is not only very fair, it's very progressive. In other words, it's not regressive. It would largely benefit the unwealthy by every metric you want to look at, even by the crap metrics that our opposition is using to say that it would benefit the wealthy. They're just wrong. They're just wrong on every count. And by the way, if you go to bit.ly, that's bit.ly/won't-help-rich, all lowercase, won't help rich, no apostrophe, you can see our argument. And I will get into that a little bit tonight if you want me to, but otherwise, and let's see. So yeah, Mitch Daniels wrote this piece. He's a scumbag. We tweeted him. We hit him hard on Twitter. If you look up and down our Twitter feed, you can see what we said. Please retweet all of our stuff, guys. And remember, go to our daily action at our website and do that special project. We have a huge muscle to flex, and you got to help us flex it. So please do that. Studentloanjustice.org, daily action. It's the thing at the top. Hey, Leslie says, I still don't get it because most people I work with owe over 100,000 in student loans. 10,000 doesn't mean jack. You're exactly right, Leslie. You know, I am extremely suspicious of, for example, Elizabeth Warren's claim that canceling $50,000 would eliminate the debt of 80% of the borrowers. I think that's wrong. And I've a good reason for thinking that. I cannot prove it at this point, though, unfortunately. But I do know that as of 2009, the Department of Education was not reporting interest accrued on defaulted loans after the loans defaulted. I suspect they may be playing the same or similar accounting games now to underreport the true magnitude of the student loan problem. In other words, I think there's a lot of debt out there that they may not be reporting. So when they claim that $50,000 would eliminate the debt of 80% of people, I think that's wrong. I think that is a false claim. But it's going to be hard to prove. And that's a longer conversation, but I would very happily get into that at some greater length at some point. Hey, Evangie says, so happy to see the AFL-CIO called for student loan cancellation. Yeah, it's been great. You know, in the past 2 weeks, we've seen at the AFL-CIO call for student loan cancellation. We've seen a number of attorneys general also call for total student loan cancellation, and that's important. The one thing I'll say, though, guys, you know, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we're very glad you're here. We're all fighting on the same side. I'm very unimpressed with the Republicans. They seem, and while Mike Brown and that, you know, other people from Mitch Daniels, people from Indiana, also from North Carolina, terrible people there, while they, the members of Congress, are working very hard to fight for this big government lending monstrosity, and there's nothing conservative about that, Republicans need to get their arms around this problem. And we're seeing some good movements there, by the way. The most important policy thing I'm going to tell you tonight is there's a bill in the Senate right now that would return bankruptcy protection to student loans, S-2598. Very important bill. It's got 2 Republican co-sponsors on it. Senator out of Texas, John Cornyn, Senator out of Missouri, Josh Hawley. It's an extraordinarily important bill, ladies and gentlemen. And if you forget everything I say tonight, remember, we've got to fight for this bill, S2598. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy, guys. Nobody does. But honestly, unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back, I don't see Joe Biden doing any sort of meaningful student loan cancellation. The most we're going to get is this $10,000 bullshit, this up to $50,000 trick. And both of those things will be means tested and bureaucratized to death. So that at the end of the day, as long as bankruptcy, the threat of bankruptcy remains gone, we're going to see almost nothing for almost everybody. They'll say, you get $3,000, you get $5,000, you get nothing because you didn't fill out your form correctly. You get nothing because you earn too much. You get nothing because you have purple eyes or whatever. And they will find a way to not cancel loans. So getting the threat of bankruptcy back lies at the core of this problem. And forget anything you might have heard from anyone else you might have talked to. We've been doing this for 17 years, ladies and gentlemen, and we know this to be very true. So if you want to fight for student loan justice, the first thing you will do is fight to get the constitutional right of bankruptcy returned to these loans as it exists for every other loan in the country. So yeah, we're thrilled to see, these left-leaning groups call for loan cancellation. We've got to see some right-leaning groups call for loan cancellation. And that has happened and is happening, but it's got to happen more. Republicans should be on our side. This is a conservative argument that we're making. We're talking about a big government monstrosity. We're talking about a college enriching loan scam. These are both things that Republicans supposedly are supposed to be against. So there's no good reason. I'll also say this lending system is wrecking states in the South. The worst hurt states are all southern states, Florida up to North Carolina, over to Missouri, down to Louisiana, including Texas, including Alabama. Those are the worst hit states. And those are all Republican states by and large. So Republicans should absolutely and completely be on our side. So, okay, guys, 5 signs that the student loan system is failed. And this is in no particular order. Number 1, nobody's paying. Like even before the pandemic, and this is very true. And if you go to bit.ly/most not paying, bit.ly, you will see the data for yourself and you can vet it and you can look at the Department of Education records for yourself. Before the pandemic, 64.3% of all borrowers were not paying on their loans. That's nearly 2/3. And even if you discount the students who were in college, it's still 57% of all borrowers were not paying. That's over half. I think that's a pretty good sign that we have a failed lending system, don't you? And today, here now during the pandemic, almost nobody's paying. That's a pretty good sign that we have a failed lending system. Have you ever heard of another lending system where half the people didn't pay? And oh yeah, no, everything's fine. No, it's failed. So that's a very good sign. And this is in no particular order, by the way. But number 2, the second sure sign that we have a failed lending system is the government is afraid to turn the lending system back on, right? COVID came, payments were paused. They were supposed to resume payments. I think, what was it, October 21? They didn't. They extended until February 1st, 22. And then they extended again, and who knows? But this is like, what, the 3rd extension or something? It's ridiculous. The people in Washington, D.C. have no idea what to do because they know what I know. What I know is what I just told you and what I'm about to tell you. That should prove to you that this lending system is toast. It's finished. It's a dead man walking. Technically, it still exists, but I mean, does it really? I don't know. I think it's vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak. They're afraid to turn it back on. That should be telling you something. So that's number 2. Number 3, default rates. Okay, let's look at the subprime home mortgage crisis. That was a pretty failed lending system. Most people would agree. The default rate for subprime home mortgages was about 20%. That's 1 in 5. That's Elizabeth Warren used to say, if 1 in 5 of, a brand of toaster exploded, there would be a recall on that thing. They would not be allowed to be sold in stores. 20% default rate for subprime mortgages. Do you know what the default rate is for people who went to college in 2004 and borrowed less than a third of what they're borrowing today? The default rate for people in college, left college in 2004, is 40%. 40%, double the default rate of subprime home mortgages. So ask yourself this. What do you think the default rate is for more recent borrowers who are borrowing double or triple what people were borrowing in 2004? Is it going to be 40%? Obviously, it's going to be way higher than 40%. Is it going to be 50%? For sure, no doubt. How could it not be? Is it going to be 60%? Absolutely, it's going to be 60%. Why wouldn't it be? People are borrowing 3 times as much. The economy hasn't gotten 3 times better. Wages haven't risen 3 times. It's going to be at least 60%. It's probably, my best guess is probably 70 or 75%. It could go as high as 80%. So that's a pretty sure sign that we have a failed lending system like no other lending system in this country's history has ever failed before. That's number 3. 4th sign that we have a failed lending system is when the 2 largest private contractors who service the loans, that is Navient and the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, aka FIA, aka Fed Loan Servicing, pull out of the program. So Fed Loan Servicing announced it was pulling out of the program. It was walking away from the program, what I think was last summer, right? Navient announced very shortly thereafter, if memory serves, that they were also pulling out of the program. Now, somehow Navient may still be back in. We don't know. But they made that announcement. They're pulling out. That's a pretty good sign that the party's over when the 2 biggest kids at the party get up and go home. I think we have a ended party there. And it's only a party if you're making money on it. It's not a party at all if you're paying money into it like we all are. So it's not a bad thing that this particular party is over. But that is the 4th very clear sign that we are looking at a failed lending system. Another interesting and sort of funny sign that this lending system is failed is when there's a whole laundry list of, I call them swamp creatures. So these are people claiming to be sort of conservative analysts, whatever. They live and work in Washington, D.C., and for years and decades, and names on this list are people like Jason Delisle and Beth Akers and on and on. It's a very long list. So for years, these people would criticize the federal lending program. They'd say, "Oh, this is a terrible thing. Look at all this taxpayer money being wasted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." "Oh, we should just end this thing," they'd say, and "Oh, this is the worst kind of big government, blah, blah, blah." They would say all that. Well, now that we are certainly when after the pandemic struck and the structural cracks of failure began to become very apparent, not only to me with the stuff I just said, but also to everybody in Washington, D.C., who are not stupid people, by the way. They see the same data that I was looking at, and they're not stupid. But all of a sudden, people like Jason Delisle, they all of a sudden changed their tune. And instead of saying, "Yeah, end this thing, end it," like they had been saying previously, paraphrasing, now people like Jason Delisle are saying, "Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, no. This is good debt." He's saying, "Oh, on balance, this is actually a pretty good debt." They're saying, "Oh, sure, we can fix it and everything. We can fix it and we have to fix it, but it's pretty good debt. I'm not saying throw the whole baby out with bathwater." Yeah, this is the sort of nonsense spin gymnastics that we're seeing the swamp creatures all of a sudden pivot to. And you know why? Because they're scared and they're protecting this lending system. And it's these very same people who are still our opposition, these very same people who are flooding the media right now with a million articles. Like on Sunday, I think we saw 6, if not 7 articles, all saying student loan cancellation is bad for one reason or another. It won't help. It'll help the rich. It'll cause inflation. It'll foster irresponsibility. All these people that are trying very hard to spin this dying lending beast back to life are scared because they know their careers will vanish along with this lending system. The hypocrisy and the trading in the sword for pom-poms and the duplicity of these snaky, vicious swamp creature people, I liken them to a character called Salacious B. Crumb. It's a Star Wars thing. It had a lot of currency last week, May the 4th. But if you remember Jabba the Hutt, there was this little creature that used to scurry around Jabba the Hutt and like go in and out of the folds of his neck and like clean his belly button and stuff. That creature actually had a name, and the name of this creature was Salacious B. Crumb. And every year we give an award to people who are deserving of the Salacious B. Crumb Award. Jason Delisle, Delisle, by the way, was the inaugural recipient of this award. Most recently, the award went to 2 people. Number 1, it went to Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, former president of Harvard University, Dr. Summers, and an economist. Dr. Summers is now leading the band, leading the chorus of all these people trying very hard to save this failed big government lending beast. Larry he almost deserves the Jabba the Hutt award, but no, he's not nearly that important anymore if he ever was. Larry Summers, also a guy named Adam Mooney, a researcher in Utah, I believe. Really, he's a shark from the Treasury Department. Larry Summers' old haunts, Adam Looney, Looney. He is producing garbage data, voluntary survey data, to try to claim that canceling student loans would be regressive. In other words, it would benefit the wealthy. That's absolutely false. Even by Adam Looney's very dubious and suspicious claim that the highest 20% earners hold 30% of student loan debt, even if that very suspicious claim is true, and I don't think it is, but even if it is true, that by the very same measure implies directly that the bottom 80% of earners hold 70% of the debt. Now, let's look at PPP loans. For PPP loans, the bottom 80% of earners only held 25% of student loan debt. In other words, the highest 20% income earners took out 75% of those PPP loans. So if you want to talk about regressive, let's talk about PPP loans and not talk about student loans. Canceling student loans will largely benefit the unwealthy. And by the way, canceling student loans requires not one dime from the Treasury, adds not one nickel to the national debt. You can't say that about PPP loans. Those suckers were expensive for the taxpayer. These federal student loans can be canceled, and on balance, we don't know the exact number, but it could be the taxpayer is breaking about even. So not one dime added to the Treasury, not a nickel added to the national debt, and on balance, taxpayers may be breaking about even. My best estimate is that they might be losing a couple $100 billion, like of that $1.6 trillion, $6-7 trillion, maybe $250 million of that is unpaid principal. But we have paid. We've paid these loans, and some of us have paid through the nose. Like Vanjie, who's here with us tonight, for example, she borrowed $26,000. She's repaid $100,000. And they say she still owes $132,000. You know, that's that right there. Those three numbers that I just gave you for this one borrower. We have many people like Vanjie, many thousands, tens of thousands, probably millions in the country with similar numbers to Vanjie. Those three numbers right there are, let's call it the sixth piece of evidence, the six pieces of proof that this is a failed lending system. So, okay, let's go back to the comments here. And I'm sorry, I may not be able to get to all the comments tonight, guys, so I apologize in advance if I can't. But Terry Dodd says, hey, everybody. Hey, Terry. Thanks for the poll results. Both parties, especially Democrats, need to see this poll so they can take that up to toy they keep trying to dangle in front of us and shove it wherever and shove it. Whatever happens in November, they deserve it. Every piece of it. I wonder how many of them still owe loans. Yeah, not very many. Right. We're not going to be screwed around again, guys. We're not going to be tricked again. And here's the trick they're trying to play. They're trying to foist a fake loan cancellation gimmick on us and keep bankruptcy protections away. This is what they've always done. In the 17 years we've been doing this, we've seen them play this trick again and again and again. We were fooled. I'll be honest. We didn't know much back in 2007, 2008. They fooled us in 2007. They rolled out income-based repayment. They rolled out the public service loan forgiveness program. They go, oh, no, we don't want bankruptcy because no. These programs are way better than bankruptcy. And at the time, we gave them the benefit of the doubt. But, they went to great lengths. And when I say they, I don't mean Republicans only. I mean people on both sides of the aisle. I mean people like Deanne Lunan, people like the Institute for College Access and Success. I mean people like the National Consumer Law Center. I mean people like the U.S. Perks. These are very left-leaning groups here who went out of their way to kill the push for bankruptcy so that they could foist these nonsensical loan cancellation gimmicks on us. And now, and with the benefit of hindsight, it's now clear that 99% of all the people trying for those fucking stupid fake loan cancellation programs got disqualified out of them. And this nonsense they're doing with public service, yeah, a few people are getting their loans canceled now, but there's so many people that got screwed out of those programs and never even tried again. The damage has been done, and those people should be ashamed of themselves. We were not fooled by it, by the way, around 2011 when they tried the same shit. Pardon my French, guys, but if I'm angry, it's only because you should be angry. I'm very angry. These are years put onto the lives of years of misery put onto the lives of tens of millions of decent people who didn't deserve to be wrecked by these stupid effing loans. And so I think I'm a pretty fair reflection of the sentiment of the people in our group. And if you're not mad, you should be mad. So that's a great commentary. And, even the people in Congress that owe student loans, these people are making a couple $100,000 a year in salary. They're not in any trouble at all. And they haven't felt the pointy end of the stick. So there's no way that any sitting member of Congress, whether they have student loans or not, can even identify with the true poisonous nature of these viciously unconstitutional predatory loans. S2598, ladies and gentlemen, if you forget everything I say tonight, remember, go to our website, do our daily action, do that special action. Get a Twitter account if you need to, just for this purpose. Hey, Doug Grossman, how are you? Checking in. I've been putting in over an hour on the special project per day. Thanks. Right. You can grab or you can grab into our grab bag of awesome tweets over the past 6 months, and you can do more than 10. We're suggesting 10, but honestly, if you're going to do 10, why wouldn't you do 20 or 30? I think it's fun. It's literally like a little grab bag. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Hey, Leslie Fishman says, yes. Can't figure out how to turn on the faucet after being turned off for so long. Right, exactly. The lending system is in rigor mortis, guys. And the longer they wait, the more it's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. Less than half of everybody was paying before the pandemic. Almost nobody's paying today. People have had 2 years to rethink their lives. I would be stunned if even 20% of everybody actually resumes paying when they try and turn this lending program back on. And of those, probably half of those, after a few months, they're going to be, oh, wait a minute. No. I remember how terrible and ridiculous this was before the pandemic. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Lending systems fail from time to time, ladies and gentlemen. They just do. Subprimes and the S&L crisis and all of Western, in fact, all of Europe during World War II and probably World War I too. Many, many, many lending systems failed. Many economic systems completely failed. It's not your fault. It happens. Money is an artificial construct, and most societies can't seem to get it right. And that's been true since the days of ancient Greece and probably before. And it's not your fault, guys. We didn't break this thing. This thing tried to break us. Don't forget that. We're tougher than that. We do not have to put up with this shit. We have the founding fathers on our side who called for uniform bankruptcy protections. They called for uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army in the Constitution. Founders are on our side. Make no mistake. These guys were getting screwed under debt to British banks and merchants. Frankly, I think the founding fathers are looking down on us and they're going, how did our people get so weak? What happened? How come our people are running around scared with the tail in between their legs, afraid of the federal government? It was never supposed to be like this. So don't even trip, guys. We got this. It may be, we may get it. I'm hoping we get a good outcome. The good outcome is we get bankruptcy protections returned and things sort themselves out from there. That's the good outcome, guys. And more than likely, they'll probably have to cancel very broad, wide swaths of loans. And that's what has to happen. This could also have a very bad outcome where these snakes in Washington, D.C. somehow managed to keep this lending system, at least on paper, alive. And the collection industry, sharpens its knives and tries to come after us. And it will get very ugly. It will get violent. People will die if that happens. It will be socially and civilly unrestful. I don't think we want that outcome, guys. I don't think that's good for anybody, not anybody. But for a tiny handful of swamp creatures like Jason Delisle, Beth Akers, and their ilk, Larry Summers, we don't want that bad outcome, guys. So much depends on what we do on this group, believe it or not. I don't think we would not have a bankruptcy bill to fight for, but for the efforts of people on this group. I know that. I've been told that. I am quite sure we would not even be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for the petition that we started on this group in March 2020. I kid you not. Almost nobody was talking about student loan cancellation by executive order before we started that petition. And it was only when we were up over 500,000 signatures and blowing up in the media on Newsweek and Fox News and everywhere else that all of a sudden Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren embraced the concept and adopted it and called for it. That kind of started here, guys. Really, it was, and we're glad. We're glad that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer did that. We are very not glad that they inserted this disgusting, nonsensical weasel wording into it, this up to $50,000 cap, which is stupid and will come to mean almost nothing for almost everybody if we allow this trick to be played on us. But the point is, guys, this group is way more important than you might think. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is the people in this group and our fight that has brought us to where we are today. And to everybody out there, Doug and Leslie and a million people I can't even mention, y'all should be very proud of that. But we're not there yet, guys. We're not there. This is a marathon, and we've still got a couple miles to go. We're getting close. But if ever you sitting there, we're going to get off your ass and help, now would be the time. Because these are your loans. This is your problem. And we're not pulling your weight for you. That will never happen. That has never happened. That would never happen. You've got to own this problem. You're not better than us. You've got to help us. We've got a huge muscle to flex. Like I said, 1.3 million people across all of our platforms. If even a tenth of those people were doing stuff every day, we would have this problem solved years ago. But we could have this problem solved before the midterms easily. If even, I'm going to say 10 or 20% of the people on our group, on our petition, on our various platforms did our daily actions. Hey, Leslie says, yes. Can't figure out how to turn on the faucet. Oh, I already said that. I'm seeing some back and forth. Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, Janet Yellen said some positive things the other day about student loan cancellation. Student loan cancellation will not cause inflation, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, inflation is costing the average household $500 a month. Student loan cancellation will return less than that, about $400 a month, into the spending pockets of the borrowers. So canceling student loans won't even allow the borrowers to keep up with inflation at its current rate. So canceling student loans will not cause inflation. And you can see that at bit.ly/won't cause inflation. Okay, guys, I think I've gone long enough tonight. I will be, I guess I will be back tomorrow because tonight's Ed's night. Ed, wherever you are, we salute you, as you know. So I will be back tomorrow, and do the daily actions, guys. Do the daily actions. Studentloanjustice.org. Daily action. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. All right, y'all. Hang in there. Keep fighting. Get a Twitter account if you have to. Do the daily action. Do the special action. We need you. We're the pioneers. Good luck. Godspeed. God bless everybody.